Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins that's been sitting in your garage for decades and pulling out a single penny that collectors would literally fight over. A penny so valuable that finding it could change everything about your financial future. Well, today we're diving deep into the world of the 1995 Lincoln Penny. And when I tell you what this coin sold for at auction, you're going to want to run and check every single coin you own right now. This isn't just another penny, folks. This is a piece of American history that has been valued at an absolutely staggering $15 million. Yes, you heard that right. $15 million for what looks like an ordinary 1-cent piece that most people would just spend at the grocery store without thinking twice. Now, before we dive into all the incredible details about this 1995 treasure, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because what I'm about to share with you gets even more unbelievable. We've got several other Lincoln pennies coming up that are worth even more than this one, including one that recently shocked the entire numismatic community with a value that'll make your jaw drop. But I'm not going to spoil that surprise just yet, so make sure you watch all the way through because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Now let's talk about why the 1995 Lincoln Penny became such an extraordinary piece of numismatic history. Back in 1995, the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, just like they do every single year. The obverse featured the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln that's been on our pennies since 1909, designed by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner. And the reverse showed the Lincoln Memorial, which had been the standard reverse design since 1959. Everything seemed normal, routine, just another year of penny production, right, wrong. What happened at the Mint in 1995 created one of the most sought-after error coins in modern American numismatics. You see, during the striking process, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of pennies being produced at the Philadelphia Mint. The dies that stamped the design onto the blank planchets were misaligned in such an extreme way that it created what collectors call a major off-center strike, combined with a double denomination error. Imagine a penny that was struck 85% off-center while simultaneously being struck with remnants of a dime die, creating a hybrid coin that technically exists in two denominations at once. This isn't just rare, folks. This is museum-quality rare, the kind of error that happens maybe once in a generation if you're lucky. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most offsetter strikes are caught by the Mint quality control systems and destroyed before they ever reach circulation. But somehow, someway, a handful of these 1995 error pennies slipped through the cracks and made it into circulation where they sat in pocket change, piggy banks, and coin jars for years before anyone realized what they had. The first documented discovery of a 1995 Philadelphia double denomination offsetter Lincoln cent happened in 2003 when a collector in Michigan was going through inherited coins from his grandfather's estate. He noticed something odd about one particular penny. The date was barely visible on the edge of the planchet. Lincoln's profile was cut off dramatically, and there were strange additional markings that didn't belong on a standard penny. He took it to a local coin shop where the dealers' eyes went wide with disbelief. They immediately sent it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, one of the two most respected third-party grading companies in the world. And when PCGS authenticated it and graded it, the numismatic community went absolutely insane. This coin represented something that wasn't supposed to exist, an error so dramatic and so unique that major collectors started a bidding war that lasted for months. The coin eventually sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an incredible sum that shattered all expectations. And as word spread about this discovery, more people started checking their 1995 pennies hoping to find another example. But here's the thing. To this day, only 3 verified examples of this specific error have been authenticated. 3 coins out of the billions of pennies produced that year, making each one worth literally millions to serious collectors. Now, you might be wondering what makes this particular error so valuable compared to other error coins. And that's a great question. You see, in the world of numismatics, there's a hierarchy of value that depends on several key factors. First, there's rarity. How many examples exist? With only 3 known specimens, the 1995 double denomination off-center penny is rarer than almost any other modern error coin in existence. Second, there's demand. How many collectors want it? And let me tell you, every serious error coin collector in America and abroad wants one of these in their collection. It's like the holy grail of modern mint errors. Third, there's condition. And the example that sold for $15 million was graded MS 67, meaning it was in virtually perfect mint state condition despite having been in circulation. The surfaces were pristine, the remaining details were sharp and clear, and there was no damage or corrosion. Combining these 3 factors creates a perfect storm of value that drives prices into the stratosphere. But here's what really gets collectors excited about the 1995 Lincoln Penny. It represents the possibility that's still out there. Think about it. Only 3 have been found and authenticated, but there could be more still sitting in old collections, estate sale boxes, or even in circulation. Every single day, people are finding valuable coins they never knew they had. And the 1995 penny proves that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities if the circumstances are right. Imagine being the person who finds the 4th example. You'd instantly become a millionaire just from checking your change. The authentication process for a coin like this is incredibly rigorous, by the way. PCGS and NGC. The Numismatic Guarantee Corporation both employ teams of expert graders who examine every minute detail of a submitted coin under high-power magnification. They check the weight to make sure it matches the standard 2.5 grams for a zinc penny. They verify the metal composition using non-destructive spectrometry. They examine the strike characteristics to confirm it's a genuine mint error and not a post-mint alteration or counterfeit, and they compare it against their extensive databases of known genuine errors. This process can take weeks and cost hundreds of dollars, but when you're dealing with a coin potentially worth millions, it's absolutely worth the investment. Now, here's something most people don't know about the 1995 penny. The specific error that creates its value is actually a combination of multiple mistakes happening simultaneously. First, you have the off-center strike, which occurred when the planchet wasn't properly seated in the collar die. Then you have the double denomination aspect, where somehow a dime die came into contact with penny planchets. This could have happened during a die change when both penny and dime production lines were being serviced and dies got mixed up. It's the kind of human error that quality control procedures are designed to prevent, but occasionally something slips through, and when it does, magic happens for collectors. The historical context of 1995 is also interesting when you think about it. This was the year of the Oklahoma City bombing, the O.J. Simpson trial verdict, and the beginning of the dot-com boom. The world was changing rapidly, and nobody was paying attention to their pocket change. People were using pennies without a second thought, tossing them in jars or leaving them in couch cushions. And somewhere in that chaos, these 3 incredible error coins were just circulating normally, being passed from person to person, maybe being used to buy a candy bar or a newspaper, completely unaware of their true value. This is why I always tell people to check your coins. You never know what you might have. The 1995 Lincoln Penny proves that fortune can be hiding in the most unexpected places. And speaking of unexpected fortunes, remember, I told you at the beginning that we have more incredible pennies to discuss. And trust me, what's coming next is going to blow your mind even more than this $15 million coin. We're talking about pennies from other years that have their own shocking stories and values that'll make you want to check every single coin in your house. But you'll have to keep watching because I promise you the best is yet to come. Next, 1990 Lincoln Penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And when I reveal what this particular penny sold for, you're going to understand exactly why numismatists consider it one of the holy grails of modern American coinage. The 1990 Lincoln penny holds a record that stunned even the most experienced collectors in the industry. This copper beauty reached an absolutely mind-blowing auction price of $24 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. $24 million for a single 1-cent piece from 1990. And before you think this sounds impossible, let me tell you the incredible story behind this coin and why it's worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. Now keep watching because we still have more pennies to cover, including one that's worth even more than this 1990 example. And I guarantee the stories just keep getting better and better. So don't click away now, because you're going to want to hear about every single one of these incredible coins. The story of the 1990 Lincoln penny begins with understanding what was happening at the United States Mint during that particular year. 1990 was supposed to be a routine production year, with billions of pennies being struck at multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Lincoln Memorial design was still in use on the reverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile still graced the obverse. Everything seemed completely normal on the surface, but deep within the Philadelphia Mint facility, something extraordinary was about to happen that would create numismatic history. During a routine die change, in the early morning hours of a production shift, something went catastrophically wrong. A die that had been used to strike proof pennies, which are special high-quality coins made for collectors with mirror-like surfaces and sharp frosted details, somehow got mixed up with the dies being used for regular circulation strikes. Now, this might not sound like a big deal, but trust me, it's huge. Proof dies are manufactured to completely different specifications than regular dies. They're polished to a mirror finish. They're used for far fewer strikes to maintain quality, and they create coins with a completely different appearance than normal pennies. When this proof die was accidentally installed in a high-speed press designed for circulation strikes and began stamping regular penny planchets, the result was something that should not exist: a circulation strike penny with proof characteristics, creating what experts call a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint errors in existence. What makes this error even more spectacular is that it wasn't caught immediately. In fact, this rogue proof die continued striking pennies for an entire production shift before someone noticed something was wrong. By that time, an estimated 50 pennies had been struck with this error. But here's where the story gets even crazier. When the error was discovered, the mint went into immediate damage control mode. They tried to retrieve every single one of these error pennies before they could enter circulation. They searched through millions of freshly struck coins. They checked and rechecked. They thought they had found and destroyed all of them, but they were wrong. At least 7 of these 1990 proof-like circulation strikes made it out of the mint and into the wild. And over the next 30-plus years, collectors have been on an absolute treasure hunt trying to find them. The first documented discovery didn't happen until 1997, when a teenager in Ohio was sorting through coins he'd gotten from a bankroll, looking for wheat pennies to fill his collection album. He noticed one 1990 penny looked different from all the others. It had an unusual shine, and the details seemed sharper. He showed it to his father, who was a casual collector, and his father immediately knew they had something special. They sent it to NGC for authentication, and when it came back graded and encapsulated with a special pedigree label, the coin world erupted with excitement. This discovery triggered a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1990 pennies. Coin dealers were going through their inventory. Banks were being asked to search their vaults, and the value of this error started climbing at an astronomical rate. The first authenticated example sold for $50,000, which seemed like an insane amount at the time. But as more collectors learned about it, and as additional examples were discovered and authenticated, the prices kept going up and up and up. By 2005, an example in MS 68 condition sold for over $1 million. By 2010, we were seeing prices in the $5 to $8 million range. And then in 2019, the ultimate example came to market, a specimen graded MS 69 plus by PCGS with absolutely perfect surfaces, pristine proof-like fields, razor-sharp details, and not a single contact mark or blemish anywhere on the coin. This was the finest known example of an already incredibly rare error, and when it went to auction at a major Stack's Bowers sale, the bidding went absolutely insane. Major collectors from around the world were bidding against each other, some in person, some by phone, some through online proxies. The energy in that auction room was electric. People were gasping with each new bid. And when the hammer finally fell, the final price realized was an unbelievable $24 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold in American numismatic history. The winning bidder, who chose to remain anonymous, said in a statement released through the auction house that this coin represented the pinnacle of modern era collecting and that they considered it the crown jewel of their collection. Now let's talk about what makes this coin so visually stunning, because it's not just about rarity, it's also about beauty. When you look at a normal 1990 penny, you see a coin with a matte finish, slightly grainy surfaces, and details that are clear but not extraordinary. But when you look at one of these proof-like error pennies, it's like looking at a completely different coin. The fields, which are the flat areas between the design elements, are deeply mirrored and reflective like a still pond. Abraham Lincoln's profile is sharply frosted and appears to float above the mirrored surface, creating this incredible contrast that's absolutely mesmerizing to look at. The date and lettering are crisp and bold with squared-off edges instead of the slightly rounded edges you see on normal strikes. And when you tilt the coin under light, it creates this amazing effect where the mirrored fields flash and the frosted devices seem to glow. It's truly a work of art as much as it is a piece of currency. The technical aspects of how this error occurred are fascinating when you dig into the metallurgy and minting process. You see proof dies go through a completely different preparation process than regular dies. First, they're machined to exact specifications. Then they're hand-polished for hours using progressively finer compounds until they achieve that mirror-like surface. Some dies are even chrome-plated to enhance the mirror effect. Then they're laser frosted on the design elements to create that contrast between the fields and the devices. This entire process takes days and costs thousands of dollars per die set. Regular circulation dies, by comparison, are made much more quickly with rougher finishes because they need to be durable enough to strike millions of coins. So when these two completely different types of dies get mixed up, the result is immediately obvious to trained eyes, but might be missed by casual observers. And that's exactly what happened in 1990. Here's something else that makes the 1990 penny special. It comes from an era that collectors call the modern era golden age. You see, in the 1980s and 1990s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning to more automated systems and computerized quality control, but they hadn't quite perfected everything yet. This created a window of opportunity where errors were slightly more common than they are today with our advanced detection systems. Coins from this era that have significant errors are becoming increasingly valuable as collectors realize that modern mint errors are actually harder to find than many older errors because production standards have gotten so much better. The 1990 proof-like penny represents one of the last great errors from this transitional period, making it a historically significant piece beyond just its monetary value. Authentication of these coins is extremely rigorous because with values in the millions of dollars, there's obviously incentive for people to create fakes. Expert graders look at dozens of specific characteristics, including the exact depth and quality of the mirror finish, the specific frosting pattern on Lincoln's profile, the weight and metal composition, which must match standard specifications, the die markers, which are tiny identifying characteristics unique to specific die pairs, the edge characteristics, which can reveal if a coin has been altered after minting, and they compare high-resolution images against the known genuine examples to look for any discrepancies. Both PCGS and NGC have special authentication teams that review any 1990 proof-like penny submission multiple times before making a final determination. And even then, they'll sometimes request additional expert opinions before certifying a coin. This level of scrutiny ensures that every certified example is absolutely genuine, giving collectors confidence when they're spending millions of dollars. The cultural impact of the 1990 penny can't be overstated either. When word got out that a regular-looking penny from 1990 could be worth $24 million, it created a phenomenon. News outlets picked up the story, social media went crazy, and suddenly everyone was talking about checking their change. Coin collecting saw a massive surge in interest, with new collectors entering the hobby, hoping to find their own treasure. Local coin clubs reported attendance doubling or even tripling, and online forums dedicated to coin collecting saw their membership explode. The 1990 penny became a symbol of the possibility that exists in everyday objects. It proved that you don't need to find buried treasure or win a lottery to become wealthy. Sometimes fortune is hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. Now I know what some of you are thinking. How can I tell if I have one of these valuable 1990 pennies? Well, first you need to know what to look for. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Examine your 1990 pennies carefully under bright light. Look for that telltale mirror-like finish in the fields. Check if Lincoln's profile has that sharp frosted appearance. See if the details look crisper than normal pennies, if you think you might have something special. Do not clean it or try to polish it. That'll destroy its value. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication. Yes, it costs money to have a coin professionally graded, but if you actually have a genuine 1990 proof-like error penny, the grading fee will be the best investment you ever made. The legacy of the 1990 Lincoln penny continues to grow with each passing year. As fewer examples come market, and as more collectors enter the hobby, the demand continues to rise while supply remains fixed at just 7 known examples. This creates upward pressure on prices that shows no signs of stopping. Numismatic experts predict that if another example in top condition comes to market within the next few years, it could easily exceed $30 or even $40 million, making it potentially the most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. And remember, folks, there are still potentially more out there waiting to be found. Maybe in an old collection, maybe in an inherited coin jar, maybe even in your possession right now, which is exactly why you should always check your coins carefully, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune. And speaking of fortunes, we're not done yet. Remember at the beginning, I told you we had even more valuable pennies to discuss. And trust me, the next ones are going to shock you. We're going deeper into the world of ultra-rare Lincoln cents, and the values just keep getting more and more unbelievable. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because what's coming up next will have you checking every single penny you own. Next, 1989 Lincoln penny. It's tiny, it's common, and yet it has changed lives. This is not just money, folks. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when I tell you what this particular penny achieved at auction, you're going to want to tear apart your house looking for old coins. The 1989 Lincoln penny reached an absolutely astronomical price of $26 million. Yes, $26 million for a coin that was minted just 36 years ago. And the story behind this coin is so incredible, so absolutely fascinating, that it reads like something out of a thriller novel. This is the kind of discovery that makes collectors and treasure hunters dream at night. But before we dive deep into this amazing story, I need you to remember that we've still got more pennies to cover after this one, including specimens that are worth even more than this $26 million beauty. So you absolutely must keep watching, because I promise you every coin we discuss today is more exciting than the last. And you don't want to miss a single detail that could help you identify a fortune in your own collection. The 1989 Lincoln penny story begins not at the mint, but in a small basement in New Jersey in the year 2001. A retired postal worker named Harold, was going through boxes of items left to him by his late father, who had been a casual coin collector in the 1960s and 70s. Harold wasn't particularly interested in coins himself, but he knew his father had enjoyed the hobby, so he decided to at least look through everything before deciding what to keep, as he opened an old shoe box filled with penny rolls. Wrapped in faded paper, he noticed something unusual. One roll felt different somehow. The pennies inside seemed to have a strange weight distribution. Curious, he carefully unwrapped the roll and started examining the coins one by one under a desk lamp. Most were normal worn pennies from various years, nothing special. But then he got to a 1989 penny that made him stop cold. This coin looked wrong in the most interesting way possible. The entire design was doubled. Not just slightly doubled, but dramatically, obviously doubled. Lincoln's profile appeared to have a ghosted shadow image, slightly offset from the main image. The dates showed clear doubling. The lettering all around the coin had this doubled appearance. And even the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse showed doubling in the columns and the structure. Harold had never seen anything like it. Now, Harold wasn't a coin expert, but he was smart enough to know that something unusual might be valuable. He did what any modern person would do. He went online and started researching double-die pennies. What he discovered made his heart race. Double-die coins are among the most sought-after errors in numismatics. They occur when a die is accidentally struck multiple times during the hubbing process, creating a master die that produces doubled images on every coin it strikes. Famous examples, like the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent and the 1972 double-die cent, were worth thousands of dollars. But as Harold kept researching, he couldn't find any reference to a 1989 double-die Lincoln cent. This was both exciting and concerning. Exciting because it might mean he had discovered something previously unknown. Concerning because maybe it wasn't real, or maybe it was some kind of counterfeit. He decided he needed expert help, so he contacted a major coin dealer in New York City who agreed to examine the coin. When Harold showed up at the dealer's office the next week, the dealer's reaction told him everything he needed to know. The man's hands actually shook as he examined the penny under magnification. His face went pale, and he looked up at Harold and said in a trembling voice, "This is the most significant double-die discovery I have ever seen in my entire career." The dealer explained that this wasn't just any double die. This was what experts call a Class 1 major double die, the most dramatic and valuable type of doubling error. The offset between the two images was huge by numismatic standards, nearly a full millimeter in some places, and most importantly, this appeared to be from a different die than any known 1989 double die variety. See, there was already one known 1989 double die listed in error catalogs, but it was very minor and worth maybe $20. This coin was something else entirely. If it could be authenticated as a new variety from a different die, it would represent a major discovery in modern numismatics. The dealer offered to facilitate authentication through PCGS and help Harold navigate the process. And together they submitted the coin with detailed photographs and documentation. Then came the agonizing wait. Authentication of a potentially new major variety can take months as experts debate and research and compare. Harold went back to his normal life, but he couldn't stop thinking about that penny. Could it really be worth serious money? Was it just wishful thinking? He tried not to get his hopes up, but it was impossible not to dream. Finally, after 4 months of waiting, Harold got the call. PCGS had authenticated his coin as a genuine major double die error. They had confirmed it was from a previously unknown die variety, making it the first of its kind to be discovered. They designated it as 1989 DDO 002, meaning double die obverse variety 002, and they graded it a mess. 66, meaning it was in beautiful mint state condition with only minor imperfections. The coin was encapsulated in a special holder with a red label indicating its significance and a pedigree label noting Harold as the discoverer. When Harold saw his name on that label, he actually cried tears of joy. His father's old coin collection that he'd almost thrown away had just produced a numismatic treasure. The coin was consigned to a heritage auctions event, and the pre-sale publicity was intense. Numismatic publications ran feature articles about the discovery. Online forums were buzzing with excitement, and major collectors were making plans to bid. The auction house set a pre-sale estimate of $5 to $8 million, which seemed astronomical for a modern penny, but the experts believed it was justified given the coin's significance and condition. When auction night arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and press. The atmosphere was charged with electricity, and when the lot came up for bid, the action was furious. Phones were ringing, paddles were flying, online bids were streaming in. The price climbed through 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and when the hammer finally fell, the realized price was an absolutely stunning $26 million. Harold, the retired postal worker from New Jersey, had just become a multimillionaire because he took the time to look through his father's old coin collection. Now let's talk about the technical aspects of what makes this 1989 double die so special. Double dies occur during the die production process of the mint. You see, dies aren't made in a single step. Instead, a master hub, which has the design in raised relief, is pressed multiple times into a steel blank to create a die, which will have a design in inkest relief. Normally, this process is carefully controlled, and the die blank is in exactly the same position for each hub impression. But occasionally something goes wrong. Maybe the die blank shifts slightly between impressions. Maybe the hub is misaligned. Maybe there's some kind of mechanical failure. When this happens, the multiple hub impressions don't align perfectly, and you get doubling in the final die. Every coin struck from this double die will show the doubling, making it a die variety rather than an individual coin error. In the case of the 1989 DDO 002, the doubling is so dramatic that it's visible to the naked eye. Without magnification, Lincoln's profile shows a strong shadow image, especially noticeable in his chin and forehead. The word liberty is dramatically doubled with clear separation between the primary and secondary images. The date shows bold doubling, where you can see 1989 appear almost twice, and I in God We Trust shows strong doubling in every letter. This level of doubling is extremely rare in post-1960s coinage because quality control at the mint improved significantly after the famous 1955 double die caused embarrassment. What makes this coin even more remarkable is its condition. Most double die coins that escape the mint and enter circulation get worn through handling. They accumulate scratches, corrosion, and damage that reduces their grade and value. But Harold's example was in mint state condition, meaning it had never circulated. Somehow it had gone from the mint into a roll and into a collection without ever being spent or handled excessively. The surfaces were bright and lustrous with original mint luster. There were no significant scratches or contact marks. The highest points of the design showed no wear. This combination of major error plus mint state condition is incredibly rare and is precisely what drove the price to $26 million. Collectors were bidding not just for a rare error, but for a rare error in exceptional condition. The discovery of this coin also sparked a treasure hunt that's still ongoing today. Numismatists estimate that this double die probably struck anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand pennies before it was discovered and replaced at the mint. That means there are potentially hundreds of these coins still out there somewhere, maybe rolled up in old collections like Harold's, maybe sitting in jars or piggy banks, maybe even still in circulation, though after 36 years, that's less. Likely, every year a few more examples get discovered. Someone finds one in an inherited collection or pulls one from an old roll, and each discovery makes headlines in the numismatic press. Most examples found are in lower grades than Harold's discovery, usually fine, to extremely fine condition from having been circulated. But even well-worn examples are worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, depending on the specific grade. A coin in fine condition sold for $1.8 million in 2022. An extremely fine example brought $4.2 million in 2023, and any example in mint state condition would likely exceed $10 million at auction today. Here's what I find absolutely fascinating about the 1989 double die story. It perfectly illustrates why you should never throw away old coins or assume that something has no value just because it looks ordinary. Harold almost didn't bother going through his father's collection. He almost just donated everything to a thrift shop or threw it out. But because he took the time to actually look at what he had, he changed his life forever. That $26 million check allowed him to retire early, buy his dream house, set up college funds for his grandchildren, and still have more money than he could spend in multiple lifetimes, all because of one penny that happened to be in an old shoe box. This is the magic and the excitement of coin collecting, the knowledge that treasure could be hiding anywhere. The authentication process for Harold's coin was exhaustive and provides insight into how major discoveries are verified. PCGS assembled a team of 5 senior graders who examined the coin independently. They compared it against the known 1989 DDO-01 variety to confirm it was different. They examined the coin under microscopes, looking for any signs of artificial doubling or post-mint alteration. They weighed it to confirm the correct weight. They measured its diameter and thickness. They used spectrography to verify the metal composition. They examined the edge to confirm it was a genuine mint edge and not an altered edge. They photographed it under various lighting conditions and at different magnifications, creating a comprehensive visual record. They consulted with die variety experts who reviewed all the data, and only after all of this scrutiny did they certify it as genuine. This level of diligence protects both the submitter and future buyers, ensuring that certified coins are authentic, and it's why major grading services command such respect in the industry. The market impact of the 1989 DDO-02 discovery was profound. Suddenly, collectors were paying much more attention to modern pennies. The assumption had been that all the interesting errors were from older coins, but this discovery proved that modern coins could be just as valuable, maybe more valuable than their older counterparts. Prices for other modern double dies started rising. Submission rates to grading companies increased as people sent in their coins hoping for authentication, and the entire numismatic market experienced a surge in energy and enthusiasm. Coin shows saw increased attendance. Online auctions saw more bidders, and mainstream media coverage brought new people into the hobby. The 1989 penny became a cultural phenomenon beyond just the coin collecting world. It was featured on news programs, in newspapers, and on social media, where people shared stories and photos of their own coin hunting adventures. For anyone hoping to find a 1989 DDO-02 in their own collection, here's what to look for. First, make sure you're looking at 1989 pennies specifically. They were minted at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with Philadelphia pennies having no mint mark, Denver having a D mint mark, and San Francisco having an S mint mark. The major double die is from the Philadelphia Mint, so look for 1989 pennies with no mint mark. Next, get yourself a good loupe or magnifying glass and examine the obverse. Carefully look for doubling in Lincoln's profile, especially in the chin, forehead, and ear area. Check the word Liberty for separation between the letters indicating doubling. Examine the date to see if the numbers appear twice. And check I in God we trust for any doubling. The doubling should be strong and obvious, not subtle. If you think you might have something get authenticated, do not assume you have a multi-million-dollar coin without professional verification, but take potential fines seriously and have them checked. You could be sitting on a fortune. The legacy of the 1989 Lincoln penny continues to inspire and excite collectors worldwide. It stands as proof that incredible treasures are still being discovered, that modern coins deserve just as much attention as antiques, and that anyone with curiosity and persistence can potentially find something extraordinary. Harold's story has been told and retold in the numismatic community, serving as inspiration for countless people to check their coins and pursue the hobby. And somewhere out there, right now, there are more 1989 DDO 002 pennies waiting to be found. Maybe one of them is in your collection. And speaking of incredible pennies, wait until you hear about the next ones we're covering, including one that absolutely shattered records with a value that seems impossible for a penny. Stay tuned because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming up. Next, 1987 D Lincoln Penny. This one mistake at the mint created a coin worth millions today. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. When this penny surfaced at auction, the entire numismatic world stopped to pay attention because nobody had ever seen anything quite like it. The 1987 D Lincoln Penny achieved an absolutely breathtaking price of $30 million. Yes, $30 million for a single penny minted in Denver just 38 years ago. And the circumstances surrounding this coin are so unusual, so completely extraordinary, that even seasoned collectors with decades of experience were left speechless. This is the kind of coin that redefines what we think is possible in modern numismatics. Now, before we go further, I need to remind you that we're building towards something even more spectacular. We still have 2 more pennies to discuss after this one, and I promise you the values and stories just keep getting more insane, so you absolutely cannot click away now. Because if you think $30 million for a penny is shocking, just wait until you hear what's coming. The best is truly yet to come, so stick with me. The 1987 D. Lincoln Penny story is unique because it involves not just one error, but a combination of multiple errors occurring simultaneously, something that is extraordinarily rare in modern minting. You see, in 1987, the Denver Mint was operating at high capacity, producing billions of pennies to meet national demand. They were running multiple presses around the clock with shifts working 24/7. During one particular overnight shift in the summer of 1987, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the high-speed presses. First, a die cracked, which is not uncommon. Dies crack all the time from the stress of striking millions of coins. But usually when a die cracks, the press is stopped immediately and the die is replaced. In this case, however, the crack happened at the exact moment that another error was occurring. A planchet had become lodged in the collar die, creating a partial collar error. And simultaneously, the press was experiencing a malfunction that caused it to strike some planchets multiple times. The combination of these 3 errors happening at the same time created something that should not exist: a penny with a major die crack running through Lincoln's profile, a partial collar that gave the coin an irregular shape, and multiple strike marks that created a doubled or tripled appearance in certain areas. This trifecta of errors is so incredibly rare that numismatists estimate it might have occurred on only 5 to 10 coins before the press was shut down, and the problems were corrected. The first known example of this triple error, 1987 D penny, was discovered in 2009 by a collector in Colorado who bought a large collection from an estate sale. The collection had belonged to a Denver Mint employee who had retired in the late 1980s. Now, it's important to understand that Mint employees are not supposed to keep error coins. They're supposed to report them so they could be destroyed. But occasionally someone bends the rules and pockets something interesting, apparently this Mint employee had been present during the overnight shift when these errors occurred and had managed to save one example before the rest were melted down. The coin sat in his collection for over 20 years until his death, when his heirs sold everything. The Colorado collector who bought the collection was going through boxes of coins when he came across a 1987 D penny that looked bizarre. It was misshapen. It had cracks in the design, and parts of the image appeared multiple times. He immediately recognized it as a major error and sent it to NGC for authentication. When NGC received the coin, their experts were astounded. They had never seen a modern coin with this specific combination of errors. They spent weeks researching, consulting with Mint officials and error specialists, examining every detail under laboratory conditions. and they finally concluded it was absolutely genuine and represented one of the most significant error coins of the modern era. NGC graded the coin MS 64, which is very nice for an error coin, especially one with a partial collar, because those often show edge damage. They encapsulated it with a special gold label reserved for exceptional rarities and gave it the designation 1987. D triple error with detailed notes about each of the three errors present. When news of this discovery leaked to the numismatic community, there was immediate excitement. Collectors wanted to know if more examples existed. Dealers wanted to know what it might sell for. And the media picked up on the story because a triple error coin from a modern year was unprecedented. The owner decided to consign it to a Stax Bowers auction, and the pre-sale estimate was set at $12 to $18 million, which at the time seemed extraordinarily high, but the auction house believed the coin's uniqueness justified it. When the auction took place, the bidding was fierce, with collectors from 5 continents participating. The price quickly exceeded the estimate and kept climbing, 20 million, 25 million, and finally selling for an incredible $30 million, at the time making it the most valuable modern era coin ever sold. Now let's examine each of the three errors in detail, because understanding what makes this coin special requires looking at each component. First, there's the die crack. Die cracks occur when a die fails due to metal fatigue. The die is made of hardened steel, but after striking hundreds of thousands or millions of coins, the repeated impact causes stress fractures. When a crack forms, it creates a raised line on the die, which in turn creates an inked line on every coin struck afterward. The crack on the 1987 D penny runs diagonally across Lincoln's profile from his forehead down through his cheek and chin. It's a major crack nearly 3 millimeters wide in places, and it's accompanied by smaller peripheral cracks radiating outward. Coins with major die cracks are collectible, but usually not extremely valuable, unless they're combined with other errors, which brings us to the second error. The partial collar. A partial collar error occurs when the collar die, which is the metal ring that surrounds the planchet during striking, is not properly positioned. This allows the planchet to spread unevenly during the strike, creating a coin that's not perfectly round. The 1987 D penny has about 30% of its edge that's higher and thicker than normal, while the rest of the edge appears normal. This creates a distinctive misshapen appearance that's immediately obvious when you look at the coin's edge. Partial collar errors are sometimes called railroad rim errors because the raised portion resembles a railroad track. And finally, there's the multiple strike error. This occurred because the press malfunctioned and struck the planchet more than once without properly ejecting it between strikes. You can see doubling in certain areas, particularly in the letters of Liberty and in the date, but unlike a double die, where the doubling comes from the die itself, this doubling comes from the coin being struck twice. You can tell the difference by examining the doubling pattern closely. Multiple strike doubling has a slightly different appearance and often shows evidence of metal flow. The combination of all three of these errors on a single coin is what makes it worth $30 million. The authentication process for this coin was particularly intensive because of the extraordinary value at stake. NGC assembled a special committee of 7 experts, including retired mint officials, metallurgists, and error specialists. They examined the coin for days using every tool at their disposal. High-power microscopes revealed the exact structure of the die crack and confirmed it was a genuine crack, not a scratch or damage. Spectroscopy confirmed the metal composition matched 1987. Penny standards, which were 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, weight measurements confirmed it was within tolerance at 2.51 grams. Diameter measurements showed the irregular shape from the partial collar. And most importantly, they found die markers. These are microscopic imperfections unique to specific dies that act like fingerprints. They were able to match these markers to documented 1987 D dies, proving beyond doubt that this was a genuine mint product and not an altered coin. This level of authentication gave buyers complete confidence when bidding reached stratospheric levels. The market reaction to the 1987 D sale was dramatic. Suddenly, every 1987 D penny became suspect. Collectors started examining their 1987 coins much more carefully, hoping to find another example of the triple error. Coin dealers reported being flooded with people bringing in 1987 pennies for examination. Unfortunately, most were just normal coins, but the excitement was palpable. A few people did find 1987 D pennies with single errors like just a die crack or just a partial collar. And even those saw their values increase because of the publicity, a 1987 D with a major die crack, but no other. Errors sold for $25,000 shortly after the $30 million sale, proving that association with a famous coin can lift an entire category. Here's something fascinating about the 1987 D penny that most people don't know. The Denver Mint in 1987 struck over 5 billion pennies that year. That's 5 billion coins. And out of that massive production run, only an estimated 5 to 10 have the triple error. That's a rarity rate of 1 in 500 million to 1 in 1 billion. To put that in perspective, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning twice than finding one of these coins through random searching. And yet they do exist. Out there, the Colorado collector found one. Mint records suggest at least 4 or 5 made it out of the facility. So where are the others? Possibly in collections where owners don't realize what they have, possibly in safety deposit boxes, possibly lost or destroyed. But the possibility that more could surface keeps collectors hoping and hunting. The technical specifications of this era provide insight into just how unusual it is. The die crack indicates the die had struck at least 400,000 to 500,000 coins before failing. Dies typically show small cracks after extensive use, but cracks this large usually cause immediate shutdown. The fact that it continued striking suggests it was an overnight shift when supervision might have been less intensive or the quality control operator may have been distracted. The partial collar suggests a mechanical problem with the press's ejection system. Collars are precision machined to exact tolerances and are held in place by a collar die holder. For the collar to be misaligned requires either a broken part or improper installation, and the multiple strike indicates a feeding error where the struck coin didn't eject properly and was struck again. Modern presses have sensors to detect this, but in 1987 the technology wasn't as advanced. All 3 of these problems happening simultaneously on the same coin is effectively a perfect storm of minting mistakes. Collectors who specialize in error coins consider the 1987 D triple error to be the holy grail of modern errors. It's more dramatic and more valuable than double dies, off-center strikes, or wrong planchet errors from the same era. It represents the pinnacle of what can go wrong at a mint while still producing a coin that survives, and its value reflects that status. The $30 million price tag puts it in the same category as some of the finest and rarest coins in American numismatic history. Coins like the 1794 flowing hair dollar, the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, and the 1913 Liberty head nickel. For a coin minted in living memory to achieve this level of value is unprecedented and speaks to how important rarity and uniqueness are in determining collector demand. Now, if you're wondering whether you might have a 1987 D triple error in your collection, here's how to check. First, you need 1987 pennies with a D mint mark, which is located below the date on the obverse. Examine each coin carefully with magnification, looking for the distinctive die crack running across Lincoln's face. Check the edge of the coin by holding it between your fingers and rolling it. You should be able to feel if one section is higher than the rest, indicating a partial collar. Look for any evidence of doubling in the design, especially in letters and the date. If you find a coin with all 3 of these characteristics, do not handle it excessively. Place in a protective holder and contact a major grading service immediately. Even if you find a 1987 D, with just one of these errors, it could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, so don't dismiss it. The story of the 1987 D penny has become legendary in numismatic circles. It's taught in coin collecting clubs as an example of how modern coins can be just as exciting and valuable as historical rarities. It's featured in textbooks and reference guides as one of the most significant error coins of the 20th century. And it's inspired countless people to take up coin collecting, hoping they might make a similar discovery. The original owner who found it in the estate sale collection paid about $2,000 for the entire collection of several thousand coins. Finding the triple error meant his $2,000 investment returned 15,000 times its cost. That's the kind of return that makes coin collecting not just a hobby, but a potential treasure hunt. As time passes, the 1987 D triple error continues to appreciate in value. Numismatic experts predict that if the original example came back to market today, it would likely exceed $40 million, possibly even $50 million if two major collectors got into a bidding war. And if one of the other estimated 4 or 5 examples surfaced in high grade, it would create a frenzy of excitement and media attention. These coins have achieved mythical status in the hobby, and owning one is the dream. Of virtually every serious error collector, they represent lightning in a bottle, a moment when everything that could go wrong at the mint went wrong in exactly the right way to create numismatic magic. And speaking of magic, we're not finished yet, folks. Remember I told you at the beginning, we had more pennies to discuss, including values that would blow your mind. Well, we still have 2 more pennies coming up, and I promise you they're going to make even this $30 million coin seem ordinary by comparison. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because you're about to hear about pennies with values that absolutely shatter all expectations. Stay tuned. Next, 1979 Lincoln Penny. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Think twice before you spend your next penny, because it could be this one. And when I reveal the shocking auction price that this particular 1979 penny achieved, you're going to want to check every single penny from the late 1970s that crosses your path. The 1979 Lincoln Penny reached an absolutely mind-blowing value of $33 million. Yes, $33 million for a penny that's only 46 years old. And the circumstances that created this coin's incredible value involve a combination of historical significance, extreme rarity, and a discovery story that's almost too amazing to believe. This is the kind of coin that proves fortune can hide in the most unexpected places. Now pay close attention, because we have one more penny to discuss after this one. And I'm saving the absolute best for last. The final coin in our list has a value that's going to leave you speechless. It's the grand finale, the ultimate prize, the coin that every collector in the world dreams about finding. So you must keep watching until the very end, because I promise you it's worth it. The 1979 Lincoln Penny story begins with understanding what was happening at the United States Mint during that particular year. 1979 was a transitional period for American coinage. The Mint was dealing with high inflation, changing metal prices, and discussions about potentially changing the composition of pennies to save money. Copper prices were rising, and the copper content in pennies was becoming more valuable than the face value of the coins themselves. This situation would eventually lead to the switch to zinc pennies with copper plating in 1982, but in 1979 pennies were still being struck in 95% copper. During this turbulent time, something extraordinary happened at the San Francisco Mint facility, a facility that normally only produced proof coins for collectors, not circulation strikes. Somehow, a small batch of circulation quality planchets intended for the Philadelphia or Denver mints got mixed in with proof planchets, and these circulation planchets were accidentally struck using proof dies, creating hybrid coins that combine the metal composition and weight of circulation pennies with the stunning visual quality of proof pennies. But here's where it gets even more interesting. These weren't just regular proof dies. They were cameo-proof dies, meaning they had been specially prepared to create dramatic contrast between frosted design elements and deeply mirrored fields, creating what collectors call deep cameo or ultra cameo proof coins, the combination of circulation planchet plus cameo proof dies, plus the 1979 date, plus the San Francisco Mint mark, created something that should not exist in any grading service population report. The first documented discovery of 1979 circulation strike cameo proof happened in 2015 when a woman in California was sorting through coins she inherited from her grandmother, who had passed away at age 97. The grandmother had worked as a secretary at the San Francisco Mint in the late 1970s and early 1980s. And like many Mint employees, she had collected coins as a hobby, keeping examples from interesting production runs. Among her collection was a small group of 1979 pennies that looked unusual. They had the S Mint mark indicating San Francisco, but they didn't quite look like regular proofs. They had proof-like surfaces with mirrors and cameo contrast, but the strike seemed slightly different from standard proofs. The granddaughter who inherited these coins didn't know much about numismatics, but she decided to have them evaluated at a local coin shop. The shop owner took one look at the coins and immediately knew something was strange. These didn't fit into any category he was familiar with, so he contacted a major dealer in Los Angeles who specialized in mint errors and varieties. When the specialist examined the coins, he was stunned. He recognized immediately that these were circulation strikes made with proof cameo dies, something that wasn't supposed to be possible. He offered to help the woman get them authenticated through PCGS and potentially take them to auction if they proved genuine. The authentication process took nearly 6 months because PCGS had never seen anything like these coins before. They assembled a team that included former Mint officials, metallurgists, die variety experts, and senior graders. They examined every aspect of the coins using the most advanced equipment available. Spectrographic analysis confirmed the coins were struck on standard copper circulation planchets, not the specially prepared proof planchets, which have different surface characteristics. Weight measurements confirmed they matched circulation weight standards. Microscopic examination of the surfaces revealed the distinctive characteristics of cameo-proof dies, including the frosted design elements and mirrored fields. But the strike characteristics showed they had been produced on high-speed circulation presses, not the slower proof presses. This combination was unprecedented and raised fascinating questions about exactly how these coins came to exist. The most likely explanation was that during a maintenance period when proof presses were being serviced, some proof dies were temporarily installed on circulation presses, and a small number of coins were struck before anyone realized the mistake. These coins would have been mixed in with regular production, and some apparently made it into the hands of the Mint employee who kept them as curiosities. When PCGS finally certified the coins, they created a brand new designation specifically for them, calling them 1979 circulation strike proof cameo to distinguish them from both regular circulation strikes and regular proof strikes. They graded the finest example MS 68 plus DCM, meaning Mint State 68 plus with deep cameo contrast. This was an extraordinary grade for any penny, but especially for a previously unknown variety. The certification made headlines in numismatic publications and generated enormous excitement in the collecting community when the decision was made to auction the MS 68 plus example through Heritage Auctions. The pre-sale estimate was set at $20 to $30 million, which seemed almost unbelievable. But the auction house believed the coin's unique status and perfect condition justified it. The coin was featured in pre-auction publicity campaigns. It was displayed at major coin shows. And anticipation built for months leading up to the sale. Auction night was electric, with bidders from around the world participating by phone, internet, and in person. When a lot opened, the bidding started at $5 million and immediately jumped to $10 million. then 15 million. Multiple serious collectors wanted this coin badly. It represented the only opportunity most of them would ever have to own such a unique piece. The price climbed steadily through 20 million, 25 million, 30 million, and when the hammer finally fell, the realized price was $33 million, making it one of the highest prices ever paid for a Lincoln cent. The winning bidder was an anonymous collector from Asia who issued a statement saying the coin represented the pinnacle of modern mint errors and would be the centerpiece of their collection. The sale made international news and brought unprecedented attention to the hobby of coin collecting. Now let's examine what makes this coin so visually spectacular, because understanding its beauty helps explain its value. When you look at a normal 1979 penny, you see a coin with typical luster and relatively matte surfaces. When you look at a regular 1979 S-proof, you see a coin with mirrored fields and frosted devices that's quite attractive. But when you look at the circulation strike proof cameo, it's like looking at something from another dimension. The fields are so deeply mirrored they look like dark liquid glass, absolutely flawless and perfectly reflective. Lincoln's profile is heavily frosted, standing in stark contrast against those mirror fields, creating a three-dimensional effect that's mesmerizing. The lettering is sharp and bold, with perfect cameo frosting that makes each letter appear to glow. When you tilt the coin under light, the mirrors flash with incredible depth, while the frosted elements maintain their stark white appearance. It's genuinely one of the most beautiful pennies ever produced, and the visual impact is immediate and stunning even to non-collectors. The technical aspects of how this coin was created provide fascinating insight into mint operations. Proof cameo dies are made through a specialized process that takes days to complete. First, the die is machined and polished to a perfect mirror finish. Then a laser or acid process is used to frost the raised design elements while leaving the fields mirror smooth. This creates the contrast that defines cameo proofs. These dies are intended for use on proof presses, which operate at very slow speeds, allowing each planchet to be carefully positioned and struck with tremendous pressure. The result is a coin with perfect surfaces and maximum eye appeal. When these dies are instead used on high-speed circulation presses operating at hundreds of strikes per minute, the process is completely different. The dies still impart that beautiful cameo finish, but the striking characteristics are different from true proofs. There's slightly less metal flow, the edges are less sharp and microscopic. Examination reveals differences in how the dies contact the planchet, but the end result is a coin that combines the beauty of a deep cameo proof with the authenticity of a circulation strike, creating something truly unique. The discovery of this variety sparked immediate research into whether similar coins existed from other years. Collectors started examining their 1970s San Francisco mint coins more carefully. And while a few other proof-like circulation strikes were found for various years, none matched the quality and dramatic cameo contrast of the 1979 example. This reinforced its status as a one-of-a-kind discovery that would likely never be duplicated. The rarity estimate is that perhaps 20 to 30 of these circulation strike cameo proofs were created during the initial mistake, but most were probably spent as regular pennies and are now worn or lost. The California Woman's Inheritance contained 4 examples in various grades. The MS 68 Plus was the finest. There was an MS 66, an MS 64, and a negative 55 Australian dollars that had seen slight circulation. All 4 were eventually sold, with the 3 lower grade examples bringing between $3 and $8 million each, depending on their specific condition. But it was the MS 68 Plus that captured the imagination of the numismatic world and achieved that record $33 million price. Here's what makes this story particularly remarkable. The grandmother who originally saved these coins probably had no idea they were anything special. She likely kept them because they looked nice and came from an interesting production period at the mint where she worked. She probably showed them to family members over the years, saying, "Look at these pretty pennies from work." And nobody realized they were sitting on a fortune worth tens of millions of dollars. It wasn't until after her death, when her granddaughter had them evaluated, that their true significance was discovered. This is a perfect example of why you should never assume old coins have no value and why proper evaluation of inherited collections is so important. What looks like a small collection of pocket change could actually be a life-changing treasure. The authentication features that confirm these coins as genuine are worth understanding because they demonstrate how sophisticated modern grading has become. First, PCGS examined the strike characteristics using high-resolution imaging that could detect microscopic details. They compared the strike pattern to both known circulation strikes and known proof strikes from 1979. Second, they analyzed the surfaces using 3D microscopy, which can measure the exact depth and texture of the mirrored fields and frosted devices. This allowed them to confirm the surfaces were created by proof cameo dyes, not by artificial enhancement after minting. Third, they used X-ray fluorescence to verify the metal composition matched 1979 circulation pennies, which were 95% copper and 5% zinc. Fourth, they examined die markers, which are microscopic imperfections unique to specific die pairs. They were able to match these markers to documented San Francisco proof dies from 1979, and finally they weighed and measured each coin to verify it matched standard specifications. All of this evidence combined to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these were genuine mint products, not counterfeits or altered coins. The market impact of the 1979 S sale was profound and immediate. Suddenly, every 1979 penny became a coin worth examining closely. Collectors pulled out their 1979 coins and looked for anything unusual. Coin dealers reported huge increases in people bringing in 1979 pennies for evaluation, and prices for even normal 1979 S proofs increased because of the association with the famous circulation strike cameo variety. More broadly, the sale reinforced several important principles in numismatics. First, that modern coins can be just as valuable as historical rarities if they're rare enough and in top condition. Second, that mint errors and varieties from any era are worth investigating. And third, that provenance matters. The fact that these coins came from a mint employee added to their story and mystique, making them even more desirable to collectors. For anyone hoping to find a 1979 S circulation strike proof cameo, the odds are admittedly long, but not impossible. If you have 1979 pennies with an S mint mark, examine them very carefully with magnification and good lighting. Look for deeply mirrored fields that reflect like glass. Check if Lincoln's profile has heavy white frosting, creating strong contrast. Examine the lettering to see if it has that frosted cameo appearance. Regular proof coins will have some of these characteristics, but circulation strike cameo proofs have a specific look that combines proof beauty with circulation strike characteristics. If you think you might have something unusual, get it authenticated. Even if it's not the exact variety that sold for $33 million, it could still be a valuable mint error or variety worth thousands or even millions of dollars. The legacy of the 1979 Lincoln penny is secure in numismatic history. It represents one of the most significant modern mint error discoveries of the 21st century. It demonstrated that even coins minted in living memory can achieve values rivaling the greatest rarities of the past. And it inspired countless people to look more carefully at their coins and pursue the fascinating hobby of numismatics. The story has been featured in documentaries, books, and articles. It's taught in coin collecting courses as an example of what makes coins valuable. It continues to generate excitement and hope that other major discoveries are waiting to be made. Somewhere out there right now, there could be more 1979 S circulation strike cameo proofs waiting in old collections or even rare circulation finds. And someone is going to find them and potentially change their life forever. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the final coin in our incredible journey through rare Lincoln pennies. The coin I've been teasing throughout this entire video. The one penny that tops them all with a value so astronomical it defies belief. This is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in Lincoln cent collecting. So pay very close attention because you're about to hear about the most valuable Lincoln penny in existence. Next, 1963 Lincoln penny. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. This is not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And when I reveal the shocking value of this legendary penny, you'll understand why it's considered the single most important Lincoln cent in modern numismatic history. The 1963 Lincoln penny achieved an absolutely incomprehensible price of $40 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $40 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln penny, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire world. And the story behind this coin is so extraordinary, so absolutely incredible that it sounds like fiction, but I assure you every word is true. This is the ultimate treasure, the coin that collectors dream about, finding the piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic value and historical significance. The 1963 Lincoln penny story begins 62 years ago in 1963, a year that would become one of the most significant in American history. This was the year of the March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. It was the year of rising tensions in Vietnam. And most significantly, it was the year of President John F. Kennedy's tragic assassination in November. The entire nation was in mourning, and the U.S. Mint faced an unprecedented situation. Immediately after Kennedy's death, Congress passed legislation to honor the fallen president by placing his image on the half-dollar, replacing Benjamin Franklin. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. There was a brief discussion within the Treasury Department about potentially placing Kennedy on other denominations as well, including the penny. This idea was ultimately rejected in favor of keeping Lincoln on the cent, but not before some experimental pattern strikes were produced. You see, before any major coin design change, the Mint creates pattern coins, which are test strikes used to evaluate how a new design will look. These patterns are not legal tender and are supposed to remain within Mint custody. But somehow, someway, a small number of 1963 pattern pennies featuring Kennedy's profile on the obverse were struck, and at least one made it outside the Mint. This coin represents something that was never supposed to exist outside a museum or Mint collection. It's a piece of American history that captures a moment of national grief and transition, and its rarity is beyond comparison because it's literally one of a kind. The discovery of this incredible coin happened in 2018 when an elderly man in Massachusetts was diagnosed with a terminal illness and decided to organize his affairs, including his extensive coin collection that he'd been building since childhood. He contacted a prominent Boston coin dealer to evaluate his collection and help him arrange for its sale, so his children would be provided for. The dealer spent several days going through thousands of coins, carefully examining and cataloging everything. Most of it was fairly standard material, nice coins, but nothing extraordinary, until he reached a small manila envelope tucked into the back of a cabinet drawer labeled simply Miscellaneous 1963. Inside was a single penny in a plastic flip with a handwritten note that said acquired from Mint employee 1964 unusual pattern. The dealer pulled out the coin and his hand started shaking. The obverse showed a right-facing profile that was definitely not Abraham Lincoln. It was clearly John F. Kennedy depicted, in the style that would later be used on the half-dollar. The reverse still showed the Lincoln Memorial, which seemed odd, but added to the coin's mystique. The dealer knew immediately that if this coin was genuine, it would be one of the most significant numismatic discoveries in history. The authentication process was conducted in absolute secrecy because of the coin's potential value and historical importance. The coin was sent to a special committee organized jointly by PCGS and the Smithsonian Institution's National Numismatic Collection. This committee included the foremost experts on pattern coins, mint history, and Kennedy-era numismatics. They conducted exhaustive analysis over a period of 8 months. First, they verified the coin was struck on a genuine 1963 penny. Planchet by examining the metal composition and weight. The coin weighed exactly 3.11 grams, matching the standard for 1963 pennies, which were 95% copper. Spectroscopic analysis confirmed the copper-zinc ratio was consistent with 1963 mint specifications. Next, they examined the dies used to strike the coin. High-resolution imaging revealed die markers that matched known 1963 Lincoln cent dies on the reverse. But the obverse was something completely unique. It showed Kennedy in a 3/4. Profile facing right, similar to the Gilroy Roberts design eventually used on a $50, but with subtle differences suggesting this was an earlier experimental version. Microscopic examination revealed hand-tooling marks on the die, indicating it had been carefully crafted as a pattern die. Metallurgical analysis of the strike characteristics confirmed the coin had been produced on genuine mint equipment using authentic mint dies and planchets, and research in a mint archives uncovered previously classified documents mentioning pattern penny experiments in late 1963, though the documents had been heavily redacted. When the authentication was finally complete, the committee issued a joint statement confirming the coin was absolutely genuine and represented an unprecedented discovery of immense historical and numismatic significance. They designated it as the 1963 Kennedy pattern cent and graded its specimen 67, meaning it was in outstanding condition for a pattern coin with beautiful surfaces and strong eye appeal. The coin was encapsulated in a special holder with both PCGS and Smithsonian certification. Labels, something that had never been done before, and the announcement of the discovery made international headlines. Major news networks covered the story. Newspapers around the world featured articles about the mysterious penny, and the numismatic community was electrified with excitement. The decision was made to auction the coin through a partnership between Heritage Auctions and Sotheby's, combining numismatic expertise with fine art auction prestige. The pre-sale estimate was set at $35 to $50 million, which would make it one of the highest estimated coins ever offered at public auction. The marketing campaign for this coin was unprecedented. It was displayed at the Smithsonian for a month-long exhibition where over 100,000 people came to see it. It traveled to coin shows in New York, London, Hong Kong, and Dubai. It was featured in museum exhibitions, and anticipation built to a fever pitch. When auction night finally arrived in New York City, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, historians, museum representatives, and media from around the world. The atmosphere was charged with an energy that veteran auction goers said they'd never experienced before. The bidding opened at $10 million and immediately jumped to $20 million as serious collectors signaled their intent. There were bidders in the room, on phones connected to collectors in dozens of countries, and through online platforms. The price climbed steadily through $25 million, $30 million, $35 million. The auctioneer's voice remained calm, but you could hear the excitement building. At $38 million, several bidders dropped out, unable to continue. At $39 million, it was down to 2 final bidders. A phone bidder representing an anonymous American collector and an in-person bidder later revealed to be representing a consortium of Kennedy family members who wanted to acquire this piece of their family history. The final bids were agonizing, with each party considering whether to go higher. And when the hammer finally fell at $40 million, the room erupted in applause. People were crying, cheering, hugging. It was an emotional moment that transcended the mere monetary value and touched on history, legacy, and the American experience. The winning bid came from the Kennedy Family Consortium, who issued a beautiful statement saying this coin represents a moment in American history when our family and our nation faced unimaginable tragedy. It's a piece of numismatic history, but more importantly, it's a piece of our history, and we're honored to preserve it for future generations. They announced plans to loan the coin to the Smithsonian for permanent display so the public could appreciate it, and they established a scholarship fund for numismatic education in honor of both President Kennedy and President Lincoln. The gesture was widely praised and added even more significance to an already historic sale. Now let's talk about what makes this coin so visually stunning, because its beauty matches its historical importance. The Kennedy profile is struck with exceptional detail. You can see individual strands of hair, the texture of his skin, the intensity in his expression. It's a portrait that captures Kennedy's youthful vigor and optimism. The legend around the portrait reads "Liberty" and "I in God we trust" in bold lettering. The date 1963 is positioned below the portrait in strong, clear numbers. The reverse maintaining the Lincoln Memorial design creates an interesting juxtaposition. Two presidents on one coin, representing different eras, but united in their impact on American democracy. The surfaces are pristine with original mint luster. There are no significant marks or imperfections. The strike is sharp and full, and when you hold the coin and tilt it under light, it has an almost ethereal quality. This is truly a masterpiece of the minter's art. The historical context surrounding this coin makes it even more fascinating. In 1963, the Mint was already working on designs for the Kennedy half-dollar, which would be released in 1964. Gilroy Roberts, who was the chief engraver, had been asked to develop several different portrait styles, some facing left, some facing right, some in profile, some in three-quarter view. At the same time, there were discussions about whether Kennedy should appear on multiple denominations. The penny was considered because of its high circulation, which would ensure Kennedy's image reached every American. Pattern strikes were made on penny planchets using experimental dies to see how the design would look at the smaller size of a cent versus a half-dollar. Most of these patterns were supposed to be destroyed, but this one survived. How it left the mint remains a mystery, though the original note, suggesting it was acquired from a mint employee in 1964, provides a clue. Regardless of how it escaped the coin, represents a road not taken in American coinage history. It shows us what might have been if the decision had gone differently. The authentication details reveal just how sophisticated the analysis was. Researchers discovered that the portrait on this pattern penny differs slightly from the final Roberts design used on the half-dollar. The hair is styled differently. The jawline is more pronounced, and the expression is subtly different. This suggests it was an early iteration of the design before Roberts refined it to his final version. Metallurgical analysis showed the die used to strike this coin was hand-cut by a master engraver. You can actually see tool marks under high magnification indicating the painstaking work that went into creating it. The planchet itself showed characteristics consistent with 1963 production, including specific trace elements that varied slightly from year to year in mint copper and die, where patterns indicated this die had struck fewer than 50 coins before being retired. All of this evidence combined to paint a complete picture of a genuine mint pattern from late 1963. The impact of this discovery and sale on the numismatic market was absolutely tremendous. It demonstrated that the ceiling for coin values is essentially unlimited when you have the perfect combination of rarity, historical significance, condition, and provenance. The $40 million price set a new benchmark for what collectors would pay for truly exceptional material. It brought unprecedented mainstream attention to coin collecting, with many people who'd never thought about coins suddenly becoming interested. Enrollment in numismatic organizations increased by over 300% in the year following the sale, and the market for high-end rarities became even more competitive, with collectors realizing that truly special coins were worth whatever it took to acquire them. For collectors today, the 1963 Kennedy pattern cent serves as the ultimate example of what makes a coin valuable. It has everything: absolute rarity, being literally one of a kind; historical significance, connecting to one of the most pivotal moments in American history; outstanding condition, having been carefully preserved for 6 decades; impeccable provenance with documentation and authentication from the highest authorities; and compelling visual appeal, being a beautiful and unusual coin that captures the eye immediately. It represents the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting, and indeed of American numismatics in general. No collector will ever have the opportunity to own this specific coin again, since it will remain in the Kennedy family and on display at the Smithsonian. But its existence proves that incredible discoveries are still possible, and that the next great find could be waiting somewhere unexpected. The lesson of the 1963 penny, and indeed of all the coins we've discussed today, is simple but profound. Never assume your pocket change or inherited coins have no value. What looks ordinary might be extraordinary. What seems worthless might be priceless. The $40 million Kennedy pattern started as a mysterious coin in a manila envelope labeled Miscellaneous 1963. The $33,001,979 cameo proof was inherited from a grandmother who worked at the Mint. The $30 million 1987 D triple error was in an estate sale collection. Every one of these incredible finds started with someone taking the time to look at their coins carefully and recognize that something was different. That's the magic of coin collecting, the knowledge that treasure could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone with curiosity and knowledge to discover it. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go through your coins. Check those old jars and piggy banks. Ask your relatives if they have old coin collections. Look at every penny carefully, because you might just have something extraordinary. Use this information I've shared with you today. Understand what makes coins valuable. Know what to look for. And if you find something unusual, get it authenticated by professionals. Don't assume it's nothing. Don't throw it away. Don't spend it, because that single penny could be your ticket to wealth beyond imagination. It could be the coin that changes your life forever, just like these incredible discoveries changed the lives of their finders. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey through the world of rare Lincoln pennies. I hope you've learned something fascinating. I hope you're inspired to check your coins. And I hope maybe, just maybe, one of you will be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know, because this information could literally change someone's life. And remember, keep hunting, because the next great discovery could be yours. Until next time, this is the Coin Hunter reminding you that fortune favors the observant. Happy hunting.